Hello, welcome to another episode of So Fly. It's the end of August-ish. Yeah, it's the end of August, and we're back in the CBC building in our new podcasting home to record another episode. My name is Mitch. Welcome to the show. Of course, we've got Gab here.
Hey, what's up?
We've got Yelma.
Hey, guys.
And we have a very special guest joining us back from up north. He's been up there for the last 2 months.
Yep.
Guiding out of Plumber's Lodge. Alex Ginther, how's it going?
Good, guys. Happy to be here.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
We're very happy to have you on.
This is very serious. It's like a real studio and everything.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
Yeah, we
It's all
mean
fun and games.
we mean it.
Love it.
Yeah, the sound's been really good. Hopefully everybody out there likes it. If you have any problems, just hit us up via email. But yeah, thanks for joining us today. We got a couple beers going on. We're ready to talk about your travels north.
Yep.
I've seen a couple pictures and it looks insane.
Yeah. It's pretty much the coolest place on Earth.
It's
to be
insane,
honest with you.
right?
Yeah. It's a whole other planet.
Aldo showed us a picture of a char you got the other day. You helped guide, and it was like, I don't even know.
Yeah, it was great. It was like, was that the 40 pounder? No, that was a Laker.
No, those are lake trout. A
Okay.
40-pound char would be incredible.
Oh.
They exist. They're there, but
Yeah.
they're very hard to catch. But
So what'd you catch?
my biggest char this year was 19 pounds. So it was a nice male. Nice male fish. Biggest one on the season, I think, was 27 pounds out of the Tree River.
Oh
so
my God, that's
there's
insane.
there's some big fish in that Tree River.
Well, we're gonna get to some of your best stories from that trip because, like, yeah, just looking at some of the pictures, it looks absolutely nuts. But first, should we talk about what we're drinking right now? What are we drinking? I don't even know what this is.
I to be
It's
honest,
Dagger.
I is it Dagger? Because
it's
I got
Dagger.
it from upstairs.
No, it's
I
Three
don't know.
Speed.
I've got a
Three
3-speed.
Three
Three
speed.
Speed.
Oh.
Yeah.
3-speed lager by is it Amsterdam?
Yep.
And we're drinking out of Dagger lager glasses because we're at One Method
Mm-hmm.
at the Combine, which is our new home, and they have
Very
Dagger
cool
lager
new
glasses. Yeah,
It's pretty awesome building.
it's a super awesome building. It's the old CBC building.
This place is huge.
It's
Like
huge.
I get lost every time. We've been here like 3 times,
Mhm.
4 times, maybe not even recording. But I never know where is our actual recording studio. I still don't know.
I don't know, like, where are we right
I still
now?
need Dario to lead us
If
to the
you
studio.
opened the door right now and told me to go home, I just go to sleep on the floor.
Yeah.
I just
No.
know how to find the beer tap, and that's it.
Find the beer tap and you're good.
Yep.
Especially this beer. I like this beer.
Yeah.
I like
Speed
this beer.
Amsterdam's
It's
good.
nice and light.
I'm really into lagers these days.
Where's your beer, Yelma?
Oh, it's on my lap.
Oh shit! I didn't. I thought you didn't have a beer. I was like,
'cause I don't
what's
He's
wanna
the
make
more responsible one. He doesn't
Doesn't
tap
ting.
the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Alex, so you tell us a little bit about yourself because you have a bit of an interesting background. We know that you work at Drift Outfitters in Toronto for a bunch of the year, right?
Yep.
You have a background in law.
Yep.
So how do you find yourself guiding up in the middle of nowhere for 2 months of the year?
Yeah. So I grew up fishing like cottage country, bass, worms, bobbers, as a kid. And then my first fly fishing trip was probably like not that long ago, like 5 years ago probably. And I ended up on a trip to the Eagle River in Labrador for brook trout, which is like a world-class brook trout fishery. And I had like 2 weeks notice. I had to learn how to fly fish. So I bought like a TFO setup from Cabela's for like $150.
Yep.
And taught myself to cast in the dock. And all of a sudden I was in Labrador catching 5-pound brook trout. So I've got like all these photos. My first fish on the fly was a 40-inch pike.
Get out of here.
And then my second fish was like a 3.5-pound brook trout. And it was
What?
like, so I've just been spoiled from the very start.
Dude.
So I did that trip and I was like, this is awesome. And before that, I'd like dabbled a couple times, but I was kind of skeptical. I was like, this is really hard. Like I tried an Algonquin on a canoe trip and I was like, I'd rather throw this spinner for muskie. And, but after that trip to Labrador, I was like, this is the shit. Like, this is awesome. So since then I've been like hardcore, like obsessive is the word that I would use. So that same year, or probably that same year, I was at Plumber's Lodges, which is where I guide in the Northwest Territories, with my dad and my brother. And it was a year up there in 2014 where they had this huge set of forest fires near their lodge on Great Slave. And they had to evacuate that lodge while we were up there and bring all the guests to Great Bear. And so a bunch of the guides from Great Slave wouldn't come to Great Bear because they live in the area. They've got families and homes. And so they found themselves with all these guests coming and not enough guides. So my guide, French Carl, went to the manager, Chuck, and said, you should ask my guest. He's got a boating license. He's got his first aid. He knows how to drive a boat. He could totally fill in if you can't find anyone else. Chuck was like, that's ridiculous. I'm not asking a guest to guide here. It's the 8th biggest lake in the world. Like, bad things can happen. Like, this is not a good idea.
Well, dude, you're north too. Like, there's a safety and
Oh yeah, it's
a
crazy.
whole
It's
learning
crazy
curve.
north. Like, it's the 8th biggest lake in the world. It's bigger than Lake Ontario.
It's bigger than Lake Ontario.
Yep.
Great Bear.
Bigger than 2 of the Great Lakes. It's bigger than Great Slave. Great Slave's got one spot that's deeper than Great Bear,
It's
but
bigger than Great Slave.
by a bunch.
I didn't know any of that.
Did
you know
huge.
that?
Yeah, actually, I did.
Oh, Yilma.
It's a freshwater
I
ocean.
know,
knowledge.
and I don't know anything. That's great.
It's massive. So, anyways, 48 hours later, he was like, I'm stuck. Like, show me which guy." So he pulled me out of the guest dining room into the guide dining room. I was like, "You gonna do this?" I was like, "God, I gotta ask my dad." So I asked my dad, and he was like, "If you don't do this, I'll disown you. This is the coolest thing you're ever gonna do in your entire life. You have to do this."
Yeah.
So
Totally.
I told Chuck, I was like, "Yeah, I'm in." So I watched the plane land, and my dad and my guests got off. And my dad and my brother got on the plane, and then the plane took off.
Yeah.
And Chuck looked at me. He's like, "Well, you're in it now. Like, those are your guys." So I did that week. I followed French Carl around like a dog for a week, and at the end of the week, Chuck, the manager, was like, "You did a good job. Like, do you want to stay for another 2? I could really use you." And it was right in between my lawyer licensing stuff, which is kind of the other part of my life.
Yeah.
And so it worked out perfectly. I was like, "Yeah, I'll stay for another 2."
Yeah.
And I stayed for those 2. And at the end of the season, he's like, "You're one of the boys. You're on my roster. If you want a job here, you've got a job whenever you want." And
Oh,
that
no
was,
way.
That was 5 seasons ago. So
5 seasons.
Were you
ago.
already a guide in San Ontario at that time?
no,
or
I
no? It
had
was
never
your
taken
first
anyone
experience?
fishing other than like cottage country, get in my boat, let's grab a beer and go catch some bass.
So
And that's
Everything.
why. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. Like I was there after I was a summer student. I went to law school at Queen's, and I was a summer student at a big downtown firm, so I had a break then. And then I did my articling, and after you finish your articles, which is like a paid internship, then you end up with like 2 or 3 months off in the summer, which was great because then I went back up. The year after that, I could only do a cameo, so I think I did like 2 or 3 weeks. I took my vacation and just like turned the phone off and went and did it. And then the last 2 or 3 seasons, I've been able to do like the full 7-week season. So it's just slotted in really nicely. And right now, the reason I can do it is because I work 6 months on, 6 months off at a downtown law firm. So
Oh, really?
I still practice corporate commercial law, but I only do it from September until February.
Oh, wow.
And then I guide in Southern Ontario and work at Drift through Calm Waters Fly Fishing with Jeff Parks, who you guys had on, I think,
Was it
earlier
there?
in the year.
Yeah. 16, I think.
Yep.
Episode 16.
Yep.
Or 18, one of those.
Yeah, so I do some guiding for him in the spring, and then in the summer I go back up to the lodge. So
Dude, it sounds like you've got shit figured out, for lack of a better term.
yeah, for now, for sure. Until
Mama pajama.
I end up with kids or a mortgage or
Yeah.
something like that. But for now, I can run away.
That's
I got a
great.
very patient girlfriend, so that's great. But
So and the law firm, they're like, they know you. They're like, yeah, you can be here for 6 months, and then
It was their
that's
idea.
fine. Oh, it
Like
was
I-
their idea. Okay, that's
yeah.
pretty cool.
I practiced full time for 3 years, and I've probably spent a year and a half at one firm, and I was like, I'm done. I'm out of this. I don't want to do this anymore. This is awful. And shortly after that, I got put in touch with this firm. I was like, we want to find people who have other interests
Yeah.
that want to do some things the rest of the year. And it sounds like that's what you're into. So how do you feel about working half the year? It sounds like you've got another way to make some money. So
Yeah. That's a pretty
basically,
cool.
That's such
really
an
cool
awesome
formula.
way to build a business.
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
open-minded,
So good.
very progressive.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of the
It's
guinea
really
pig
smart.
for this. They haven't done it with anyone else, and no other firm's ever done it. So
It's really,
if it
really
works
smart.
with me, hopefully it's like a bigger thing. Because there are
Yeah.
lots of people kind of our generation that are like, I don't want to do this the way that our parents
Yeah.
have done it.
Mhm.
And anyways, yeah, it's
99.
working for me right now, and it lets me go do the cool stuff that I love to do.
That's great. Well, I want to back right up. I want to go right back to Labrador when you first got into fly fishing. And I want to ask, because you mentioned you were spinning. So this is a common thing. Pretty much everybody I know, and it's not a crazy thing. It's like, yeah, you get into fly fishing because you fished at one point, and it's like, I've seen this thing on TV, or I watched River Runs Through It, or whatever, and it's like, now I want to do what Brad does. Why did you in Labrador realize fly fishing is the thing that I'm addicted to all of a sudden? You go from spit throwing Rapalas to then catching these fish on a fly rod, and you're just like, that's it, I'm hooked. What is it that did that for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't choose to do it. It was definitely a fly fishing only lodge. So I was either not going or I was going with a fly rod.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's hard to pinpoint exactly what it was, but there's just so much more to it. Like, it's so much more involved. Like, I don't know. When I use every once in a while, I'll still pull out a spinning rod for myself. Like, if I want to go have like a little bass fry and cook some bass, like I've got no problem pulling out an ultralight and going and catching some bass.
Yeah.
But that just feels like I'm catching fish. I'm going out there to catch fish. I'm not going out there to like go fishing. I don't know if that makes sense, but with a fly rod in your hand, there's so much more going on.
I think that does make a lot of sense.
That makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
It just
You're
feels
for the experience.
It feels prettier. Like I don't know how else to express it, but it's like it's just a different experience. It's like, going for a canoe ride on a lake in Muskoka that's surrounded by cottage versus going to some like river in the middle of nowhere where you're like, it's just a different experience. You're doing the same activity, but it feels different. So that's what got me into it. I've never gone back. Like it's what I love. I love doing it.
It's a great way to put it, actually, because I sort of feel that way too. Like when you're going fly fishing, you feel like you're going fly fishing, and it's different from casting, spinning around on a dock at night.
Right.
Like drinking a bush lager.
A natty ice.
Oh, Crush Bush Outdoors, baby, if you're listening.
Colt 45.
Yeah.
Go right to the bottom.
But you're totally right. I know exactly what you mean. Because, like fly fishing does offer that sort of, I don't know, more specialty. It's just like an innate thing that just feels better. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's funny. I'm the kind of guy who's very resistant to, like, if there's a Netflix series that everyone's watching, like, I still haven't watched Game of Thrones. I have not watched a single episode of it because everyone's like, it's the shit. You got to watch it. So I naturally don't want to do it.
Yes.
So when my brother and some of his friends and my dad were like, you love this fly fishing thing. You have to try it. I was like, I don't want to try that. That looks stupid. I don't want to do it. And then, like,
You're the guy when someone would tell you don't press the red button.
Yeah, I'd be like,
You pushed it.
yeah, or they'd say press it, and I wouldn't.
Yeah.
So then, as soon as I tried it, though, I was like, oh, I'm all in. Just like the Netflix thing. Watch the first episode of Sopranos. You're in for 6
hooked.
seasons. You can't stop. For me, it's the same thing. I was like, I don't want to try it. I don't want to try it. Thank God I tried it, because now it's just like an integral part of my life that just kind of happened. So
I think the all-in thing is true, too, because, like, Yelma's a good example of that. You start fly fishing, and all of a sudden, it's like you want to go all in on fly fishing. Like, you want to buy the stuff, you want to get to the river as much as possible. Like, it's fly fishing only stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's what you were like when
That's
you got
exactly
into it.
what- Yeah. I when I got to be honest, I just woke up one morning and I'm like, I'm gonna fly fish. That's exactly how it happened. And I just told everybody, and then one person got me, my ex-girlfriend's father, got me a clear water.
Yeah.
Clear water.
Orvis,
Orvis,
One of
yeah.
those
water,
things from
yeah,
Bass Pro, and $150. But it's a wicked startup, little setup. Went out and I was hooked.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Got some lessons from, who was that?
Oh yeah, I got some lessons from
Murray.
Murray's fly fishing. I don't know if he's still doing the lessons.
Yeah, I think he probably is.
I think
awesome.
he's still around.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
the man. He is the man.
Nice dude.
Nice dude, man. It's great.
But that's it. It's like you, and then you were like, I'm in. I'm buying a new rod to go steelhead fishing. I'm buying new waders. I'm getting saltwater boots.
And then 3 years later,
Going to the Grand.
and then 3 years later, you're on the
You're on a fly fishing podcast.
Exactly. My
40-inch pride.
and this is nothing to. I'm not putting aside spin fishing and all, but I mean they're all cobwebbed
still
up,
fun.
It's still fun.
I know
but
what you mean.
I went all in.
I was just up at a cottage this weekend, the old Doosling family cottage, and Unky Joe, guest we had on episode 4 and 10, I think. One of those.
He came twice. For sure.
He had a spin fishing rod he actually found in the Grand River in Caledonia. It was like, he was like, I found this in the Grand at this thing, and he was like, the handle was just sticking out. He pulled it out and he had cleaned it up, and we were just casting off the dock and smoking cigars, and it was the best. But like you said, fly fishing is one of those things you sort of just get into, and then it's just like, I just want to immerse myself as much as possible in it.
Yep.
And it's weird, but it's true.
For sure. I'm sure we'll get to this in a bit, but at the lodge, like I'd say probably like 85% of my guests are still conventional fishermen up there. It's a very old operation that's very tailored towards the clientele that still fishes conventionally, but fly fishing is a growing segment there. And I guide fly fishermen because fly fishing is what I do for a lot of the rest of the year. But yeah, I've got, as you said, like I've got nothing against conventional fishing. A lot of the times it makes a lot more sense than fly fishing, just practically. But yeah, for my own personal fishing, if I'm booking a trip, I'm not like, where can I go throw a spoon for the salmon? I'm like, where can I go swing a fly?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, same.
Huh. That's rad. So how long, you said it's been 5 seasons you've been at Plumbers.
Yeah, I just finished season number 5.
So Plumbers, I don't know much about Plumbers Lodge.
Yep.
What kind of guiding is going on up there? What fish are you going for? What are the waterways?
For sure. So Plumbers Lodges operates on Great Slave Lake and Great Bear Lake in the Northwest Territories. So it's a family-owned operation. They first started exploring on Great Slave in the 1930s. So like 1938, I think they found the Great Slave Lake Lodge location by canoe. and that's on the east arm of Great Slave Lake. So a fair drive by boat away from Yellowknife. So it's a part of the lake that a lot of people from Yellowknife don't fish very often. A lot of Great Slave Lake is tailored to pike. Like the north arm has world-class pike fishing. The
Can I stop
east
you
arm,
there?
yeah, of course.
How big?
Sky's the limit. Like 50-inch pike
50.
would be.
So musky-sized pike. And
Yes.
Okay, so what are the colors with these pike?
They look fairly similar to like an Ontario color pike. They're like a little bit softer, I think. Like they're not quite as green on the back. Like a lot more of the beiges in there. The water is pretty stained, I think. I've never guided for pike on Great Slave. I don't think I've ever actually fished on Great Slave, to be honest with you. But lots of photos. Like there are lots of good operations on the lake that are tailored to pike. Plumbers Lodges, like they have on Great Slave, they have pike fishing that you can go do, but the focus is definitely on the lake trout.
Nice.
Like the east arm is deeper than most of the rest of the lake, so it's not as conducive to pike. But most of the fishing there is like 200 yards from the lodge. Like a lot of the big fish photos they have the lodge in the background. So
Yeah, the reason why I asked about the colors, not to interrupt, but it's because Mitch caught the only like silver pike. Because our water on the Attawapiskat River, the first pike that Mitch caught, the first 45-inch pike that Mitch,
Very silver.
it was very silver.
Oh, yeah.
It
And
had
was
kind
a-
of
it was a
red
very
fins.
Did it? Yeah. it
Yeah, I
did.
looked at a picture recently.
Yeah.
It looked like a muskie, but it was a pike.
Yeah,
interesting.
and it was a stained water, and also I just curious.
Yeah, well, it's funny. It's funny you say that. The again, we'll talk about Great Bear in a second, but we've got multiple strains of lake trout on Great Bear, and the colors vary wildly between them. Like
Really,
the
eh?
whole spectrum. It's one of the only places in the world with that, and we can get into that in a second, like why that is. But so Plummer's been owned by the same family since the 1950s when the lodge is opened. The lodge on Great Bear used to be on a different part of the lake, and they moved it, I think, in the 70s or 80s by ice. They loaded everything onto trailers and dragged it all the way up the lake into a different arm in a new location. So there's photos of the old buildings that are it was I don't want to say hundreds of miles, but like a long way in the middle
By
of winter.
ice?
Yep, on sleds. They put all these buildings on sleds and drag them. If you go on the website, there's a video of this. It took them weeks.
What's the website?
It's probably
plumberslodges.com, I think.
That's insane.
It's crazy. It's
They
in
took the
those
houses
parts,
by
It's a
ice?
lot easier to use ice roads than in the
Oh,
summer,
yeah,
because
yeah.
in the summer
yeah.
it's like swampy and
the only thing is they did it kind of late winter, so they kept breaking through the ice because they wanted to get things there for the start of the season. You don't want to be there in the dead of
Yeah.
winter. But so Warren Plummer is I want to say the father of Chummy Plummer, who's the current owner. So
Chummy Plumber?
Chummy Plummer, still alive, from Flin Flon, Manitoba.
Flin Flon?
Flin Flon, Manitoba.
I've heard of that name before. Yeah, it's not the first
Chummy
time I
Plumber
heard
from
that.
Flin Flon, Manitoba?
Yep.
Come on.
Yep.
This is a movie.
That's amazing.
No.
That's
real,
the best name ever.
Real guy.
That's the best name for a human and the best name for a town.
He's a beauty. He's still ticking. So
awesome.
yeah, they explored the whole area on float planes, and they moved to the lodge on what is now known as Chummy Bay because it was the best flyout location they had.
Yeah.
Because we have 2 turbo otters, and they've had these otters for a long time, and I think Chummy said he's owned like 20 something planes in the course of his life. So they had a DC-3 and some pretty cool aircraft. So anyways, the lodge is now located on the east arm of Great Bear Lake. That's the main lodge. There's a self-guided lodge slightly south of that where people can go take themselves fishing because there's nothing to hit.
Yeah.
And then we have a trophy lodge down in the southwest corner of the lake as well. So 3 properties operate on Great Bear, and we're the only operation still working on the lake. So it's the 8th biggest lake in the world, and we're the only way to go fish it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
it's-
really awesome.
It's crazy. So we have 300 rods a year on a lake that's bigger than Lake Ontario.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's why the fishing's so
That's
dynamite,
ridiculous.
right?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So you asked about species and things. So on Great Bear, we fish primarily for lake trout.
Yeah.
It's the best lake trout fishery in the world. We also have world-class grayling fishing.
Wait, it's the
And-
best lake trout fishery in the world?
Yeah, by far. It's the biggest lake trout in the world every year is caught on Great Bear Lake. Like
Really?
Our biggest
I've heard
fish
that.
this year was 65 pounds.
65 pounds?
Yeah,
What?
65 pounds.
65 pounds is an insanely big bird trout.
It's
lake
insane.
trout. That's insane.
Yeah, so the sky's the limit. There are bigger fish than that in that lake.
That's
but-
Great Bear, you said?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So great.
Crazy.
That's insane,
It's
man.
it's crazy. So yeah, it's the best lake trout fishery in the world,
Yeah.
and then we have grayling, world class grayling, and then also some pike, kind of
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the back corners of the back bays. But you go to Great Bear to catch, to catch lake
It's
trout.
To catch
it's
Lakers.
known
Yeah.
for that.
And
Well,
then-
the grayling I know are like sort of considered a bycatch almost up there, right?
You got to target them. So they're
Yeah.
on any rocky shoreline on the main lake, but you have to make a point of taking an ultralight and a spinner or, a fly to go do it.
Mm-hmm.
We also do flyouts using the float planes that we have to go fly to specific rivers. So the Sulky River or the Horton River. The Horton is the best grayling fishery in the world. You could we talked a little bit about this before the show, but you can catch 200 grayling a day, like to the point where it's so stupid that you just don't. I'm getting eyebrows.
Yeah,
Yilma's,
are you guys-
Yilma's
just
starting to cry.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
those in the background, just like
I could see Yilma shaking with
Yeah.
excitement.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
yeah, and yeah, I'm a sucker for grayling.
Yeah. Well,
Gotta
as a-
catch one.
I
As
gotta
a-
catch one first.
as a
but-
guide, you're my dream client, because we would go to a shoreline on the main lake to go catch grayling,
Yeah.
and you would catch 30 or 40 grayling if you wanted to spend a morning doing it, and you'd just be happy as a clam.
Yeah.
Or you went on a grayling flyout, you flew to the Horton, you'd catch 200 grayling in the morning, and I would give you pliers, and I would just cook lunch for 2 hours. Be like, here you go. You're self-sufficient. Go do your thing.
So tell me about the grayling. I mean, tell me about the fight. Tell me about the equipment and all that kind of stuff, so that I can prepare. So when I do come
Yeah.
next year,
Show up with the
we're
right
good
stuff.
to go. Yeah.
So if you're on fly rod, you want to fish like a 4-weight probably to have some fight to it. I for grayling never fish anything other than dry flies up there. You just don't have to. If you had to go subsurface for grayling up there, it's because it's the hardest day of grayling fishing ever in the history of plumbers lodges. But I'll use like a size 12, 14 elk hair caddis with 3x tippet and a 3x tapered leader. Nothing fancy, and as long as you can see it and it stays floating, like you're gonna catch grayling. On the Horton, it's so silly that the river looks like it's boiling, like from current, but it's
Right,
not.
but it's not.
It's from the grayling.
Okay.
So
What?
if you walk into the river and you get a drone shot,
Yeah.
the river bottom changes color. You're like, oh, the bottom of that river is this like black, murky stuff, but it's not. It's brown. It's cobble, but it's the grayling moving around your feet.
There's just so many.
It's crazy.
That's
Like on the
mental.
Sulky this year, I had a guy who had never fly fished before, and the day before we went, he's like, I kind of want to learn how to fly fish. I was like, okay, I'll lend you my rod, and he's like, okay, I'm not even going to bring my conventional gear. I'm not even going to bring my spin rod, which is kind of a risky move. Like as a guide, you've got a guy who's never been fly fishing before, and you're like, don't even bring it.
Yeah.
Don't even worry. I'll get you fish.
Yeah.
And he had his first grayling, I'd say, within like 12 minutes, where I'm like, here's a little casting lesson. Just take this
Yeah.
and you flop it out and on a dry fly. Like
my
it's
God.
it's that crazy.
So compared to a fit, like I guess a trout would be the closest, based on the setup in terms of fight. I just want to know what I'm dealing with. Like if
Yeah, if you're on a 4-weight, like
Yeah.
they're going to put a good bend in your rod, but the only reason you're not horsing it around is because you don't want to break your fly off.
Right.
Like you could pull them in. If you were using a 6-weight, you would just pull them in. Like they're not a very robust fish. They're beautiful and they're very willing because there's no food for them to eat, but you're not like they're not taking drag or anything like that. You're fighting them to preserve your tackle, not because they're pulling super hard. So
right, and that's I've Googled it every day of my life. So the sizes I've seen, 15, 16 inches. But what are the sizes out there?
yeah, so I think Plumbers currently holds the old tackle world record for grayling at like 5 and some odd pounds. So like a huge grayling. But your average fish, it depends where you go. Like lake grayling are bigger than river grayling because there's just so much more food available to them. But if you go to, let's say, the Horton River, your average size is going to be between 14 and 18. If you go to the Sulky, it'll be between 14 and 22.
22 is good. That sounds
22 is
good.
big grayling.
Yeah.
And then every once in a while, you'll catch one. You're like, holy crap, it's a big grayling.
22 is a big grayling.
You got to sort through a lot of grayling.
Yeah,
There's a lot
yeah.
of fish there.
And you said there's no food? You said there's no food for them on the Horton?
Anywhere.
Anywhere.
So
what's
what
that-
do they eat? What's their primary
Yeah, what does that
sources
mean?
of food?
Like-
So in most of these lakes and rivers, caddis and midges will be the primary forage. There are also some mayfly hatches as well, but the caddis hatches on the lake are incredible. Like you just end up with carpets and carpets of them. And there's a particular strain of lake trout, redfin lake trout, and they feed on the surface on bugs. They're a bug eater exclusively. That's why their size is kind of capped. You'll never catch one bigger than 20 pounds. Like 20 pounds is a huge redfin, but they've got beautiful red fins and a brown back, and they're caddis eaters. So you'll see them sipping kind of chain style on the surface, like following these caddis, all the way across. So caddis are prolific in the lake when it gets warm out, and then mayflies and midges as well. But that's why an elk hair caddis is so effective. Like you can skate it, you can dead drift it, you can swamp it. But yeah, that's the primary food for them. But there are just so many of those fish, and the season is so short. Like winter ends the start of July. Like there's still ice on the main lake into July, and then it freezes again in October, November. So they've got 2.5, 3, maybe 4 months to eat. So it's not a long season. So couple that with a competition with a sheer number of fish, like the grayling in particular will just eat anything that you put in front of them.
So there's no food necessarily for a certain amount of time in the year, but there's enough food for there to be so many grayling that spawn and exist and can live through the winter.
Yeah, exactly. Like they just have to take advantage.
Yeah,
so when you fish them, it's just colder and it's not really the best time for them, but they'll be fine. They live on. Yeah, it's not like there's this mass thing where they don't have any food and they're all wiped out.
No, they're there every year. There's healthy populations. They survive on what they have. It's just they're opportunistic, right?
It's very interesting. That's really cool. And there's so many that the river changes color. That's insane.
Yeah, there's some footage online. Like we have TV shows and stuff that come up there. So if you check it out on YouTube, there's some clips that people have of some drone footage of these rivers where you see them swirling around people's feet and swimming between your legs. Like it's insane. Yeah,
it's insane.
It's crazy. Do you get TV shows every year? Like how often do you see like a film crew or a TV crew?
I'd say we average probably one a year that comes up to do some shooting. This year we didn't have any on Great Bear. We had one on Great Slave, but last year we had 2 on Great Bear. So it kind of works out to one a year that come up to do some footage. And they're mostly Canadian TV shows that come up to do it.
It's really cool.
Who's where does the clientele come from more often? Are they Canadian, more American?
Historically, it probably the heyday of the lodge, I'd say economically was probably in the 80s and 90s, just based on currency. And then 9/11 happened and Americans kind of stopped being willing to fly across borders. We had saw like a dramatic decline in American participation in those kind of years. But right now it's probably, I'm going to say, close to 50-50 Americans, Canadians, as opposed to historically it would be like 80-20 Americans to Canadians.
Oh, really? That makes sense.
Yeah, we'd have way more American clients, it's interesting. I think it's healthier now to have so many more Canadians participating because it's a part of our country that people never see. Like you learn about it, Canadian geography class, so like here's Great Bear Lake, Great Slave Lake, there are the other Great Lakes, and you see it on a map, and there's this huge swath. Like you hear people in Ontario talking, they're like, there's no more land. Like everywhere is a subdivision. There's nowhere to put people. And then you go up there and you fly from our lodge to the Tree River, which we can talk about in a second, but it's, an hour and 45 minutes by float plane, and you do not see a structure.
Yeah.
Like we have the only road for 300 miles, and it's cut out of the bush to drive from the airstrip to the lodge. Like there's nothing. There's just
we
nothing
experienced
up there.
that in Ontario, so like
well,
you can only imagine what it looks like in Northwest Territories. It's insane.
It's like you go to Northern Canada, whatever province, and it's like, yeah, this is like, why don't we explore this place? Like like you said, we learned about it in geography class, and we were like, that's crazy. Oh my god! And then you go to like somewhere else, the States or something. But it's like Canada's got so many places to go, especially like up where you're at.
Yeah, it's incredible. So having more Canadians is great, and part of the reason I think we have more is because they've started doing these shorter trips. Normally, people come up for 7 days. They come from the States or from somewhere in southern Canada, and you have to fly to Yellowknife, and we take them in from there. But it's still like a full day of travel from wherever you're coming. If you're coming from Texas, say you've got to fly from Texas, connect somewhere, and then fly to Calgary, and then into Yellowknife. You can't go direct. Like from Ontario, you can go direct now from Ottawa on Air North because there's so many government people flying from Ottawa into into Yellowknife. But it's a full day of travel, so your 7-day trip is really 9 days, and then you got some time on the side. So you're basically taking 2 weeks off work to go and do this trip, right? But we do these 3 and 4 day trips now to the main lodge, where we're getting a lot of people from Yellowknife, people who live on Great Slave Lake, and they've seen this other lake on the map that's kind of right there, but there's no way to do it because you can't do it yourself. It's prohibitively expensive, but they don't want to go for 7 days. It's not a cheap trip. It's a bucket list trip for a lot of people.
Yep.
And so now with a 3-day trip, it's like much more affordable in absolute terms. And if you live in Yellowknife, you don't have to do anything. You walk to the charter, the Summit Air charter thing, and they fly you in, and you're done. So we've had a lot more people coming from Yellowknife and even Edmonton or Calgary, where it's just a like a 2-hour direct flight, super easy. Yeah. So that's great. I love seeing people that are like, I live in. I have a lot of guests from Toronto. That's kind of my niche. I get a lot of the downtown people because that's kind of where I grew up and who I can relate to.
Yeah.
And so it's awesome to see people like, I've never seen this side of our country. Like I've lived here for 40, 50, 60 years. And like, I can't believe that this is what it's actually like. So yeah, the Canadian participation is great. We love having Canadian people up there.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to start recording. So we're recording now. What's that? You almost sent in some
No, just organizing.
donk punk.
My dog. I have joint custody with my dog, so I'm just organizing.
Did you see what I said? That's the most Toronto thing I've ever heard in my life. You have joint custody with your friggin' dash hound.
Is it negotiated? Is there paperwork?
There's no paper.
You need a lawyer.
Amiable?
His name's Blue, and he's the cutest dog ever.
Amicable.
Yeah, no wonder this dog's fucked. Joint
Okay.
custody is not good, man.
Yeah, it's not good for the dog, man.
He's going to
Think
get
about
into
the dog.
weed. It's a gateway drug.
It's
and
a
then all of
very,
a sudden
it's a
you're
very
fucked.
humanly selfish thing to do. But I can say that because
Stay together for
I
the
had
dog.
got no dogs. So.
Are we recording this?
Yeah.
Okay, I won't say anything else.
I'm just getting him going.
Okay, I'm gonna cue you in, Gab, and
Okay.
I'm gonna play your music. Ready?
I am.
Wait for it. I'll tell you when. I'll look. Just look at me.
Okay. Hello, this is Gabriel Bizo, your host of the Fly Fishing News with So Fly.
Hold on. Let's do it again. It was too loud.
Okay.
This is so good. This is the best segment
It
ever.
was too loud.
We always fuck it up because I'm terrible.
Sorry, we?
We all kind of do.
We always kind of
Oh,
fuck
because I'm
it.
laughing.
Gabs that was good. Do that again, and I'll look at you.
Okay.
Ready? Wait.
Hello, this is Gabriel Bizo, your host of the So Fly Fishing News. Fly fishing news, I would say. This year, something so funny happened. Well, so funny. Okay, so we have a hero story today. Isn't it amazing? A hero.
What do you mean?
A fly fishing hero. And this is what I mean. So a young man on the the Petite Cascapédia River in Gaspésie, a young man of the name of William Drapeau. He's an avid angler and he's a guard on the river for the ZEC. So he like check people's license and stuff. Was fishing. Oh, is it? All right. He was fishing and then he saw two old men drowning in the river. There was a big eddy and their waders filled up. One of the men was about to abandon his friend because he couldn't help him. And then he's just this little guy, right? So he's like, I can't go pick you up. So he cast his line over them. And they just grabbed it, rolled it around their hand, and he reeled them in. Well, pulled.
Pulled, but yeah.
He pulled.
No,
but
you
he reeled them in, right? Like,
How? What
story.
kind of
So-
what kind of rod was he using?
he was fishing for Atlantic salmon, so probably an 8-weight, something like that. It was using a one-handed rod, I believe.
Okay.
I saw in the news.
It's the catch of a lifetime.
That
Catch of a
is.
lifetime. Yeah.
Catch it.
There's
was,
So many
yeah.
headlines for this
Hero.
story. It's incredible.
Hero, right? Catch of a
That's
lifetime.
incredible.
Yeah.
Reel in rescue.
That's not a catch
Yeah.
and release situation.
Reel and
There
rescue.
you go. There's another one.
That's a catch and rescue.
What's another headline?
The other headline is
No, what's the other headline you would call this story?
Oh, the story. I wrote something here, I think.
You wrote something?
Well, you said
Yeah,
catch
yeah,
and
yeah.
rescue. That was pretty good.
See, I'm just
Catch and
coming. I'm just
rescue,
coming
I
up
think
with this
that's
off
it.
the
That's
cuff.
really
He's
good.
got it written
He's
down.
got it written down.
It's,
He's
I know, but I'm French, man. I'm talking.
reel and rescue.
Reel and rescue.
What's another one?
Reel and rescue.
Catch and don't release.
Catch and save.
Catch and
lives.
save lives.
That's not really nice. No, that's lame.
Yep.
That's good. You don't have to.
I think that's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, give
that's
me a
good.
break.
That was kind of unfair.
All right. Yeah, that was unfair. So
I think
yeah,
that's good.
they were trapped in a heady, and then the waiters. I've said that before.
Cool. Awesome.
So
man.
yeah, I wanted to say we wanted to say congratulations to William, and let's always remind ourselves to carry safety flotation device.
Yeah.
But I don't. To you?
No,
I,
That's actually a nice pause,
right.
but I don't.
I don't.
I don't. I'm not a.
When you're waiting?
No.
No.
I guide with a throw bag.
Do you?
Yeah, but
I mean, it's a good
when
idea.
if you're on a boat on the Great Slave Lake,
Or even just
and it's
guiding.
like if you,
It's
how
the
long?
river.
How cold is the?
It's a tree. Well, it's cold.
Those rivers are cold, right? Like,
Oh yeah, like just about freezing.
And if
Yeah.
you're guiding, the last thing you want to do is be like, I wish I had a throw bag.
I got a lot of geriatric clients too,
Yeah, so it's
Mhm.
good to.
so they're not power swimming.
No.
So throw
Yeah,
bag,
yeah.
throw bag is definitely a thing that I like having on me.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Do you have those ones that you pull? Like,
Yeah, we should have had one last.
we should always
year when we were
yeah.
on the Grand that one time when the flows were too high.
Oh yeah.
We didn't check and we're just like, well, we're here. Let's just go. Not a good idea.
But it's like that thing. It's like a waiting staff, right?
Yeah.
Like even like I got one for my dad, and it was like, "What the fuck you want me to do with that?" I'm like, "Well, use it. You're old."
Waiting staffs are good.
But like,
Waiting staffs are good.
The waiting staff is for you, though. The throwbag's for someone else.
yeah.
yeah,
Can't
yeah,
throw
but
somebody a
I
waiting
mean,
staff.
I'm talking like safety equipment. You know,
Spear him in the
I'm
head.
not very.
No.
I'm not one to. Carry.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
What's
So
his
that was
name?
awesome. William Drapeau.
He's a hero. William
He's
Drapeau.
a hero. Yeah. So let's celebrate heroism in fly fishing.
Cheers to
Cheers.
William Drapeau with his
Cheers.
delicious
Cheers.
Cheers
3-speed.
to William Drapeau. Cheers, William.
And since last time when I did a quote, was that a quote? No, a sent.
Yeah.
It's name a
You
quote.
quoted
right?
somebody, yeah.
A quote. I quoted somebody. Yeah. I found another one. It's the very famous or infamous salmon season in Southern Ontario. So that means elbow to elbow, make your way through the river.
The Bucket Brigade.
Yeah. So I got a quote from Ernest Hemingway.
I just
that
played a
found
wicked.
today.
I played a wicked sound effect when you said that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was sick.
All right. So here
You'll
it
like
is.
it later.
Here it is. La, 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 la. Okay. Somebody just back of you while you are fishing is as bad as someone looking over your shoulder while you write a letter to your girl. Did you get it? Because like,
I'm just mostly concerned about the noise you made with your mouth
yeah,
right before
it
that.
was for articulation, right?
Can you say it again?
Okay. I'm reading a quote
Quote from Ernest.
from
Hemingway.
Ernest Hemingway. And I think it's on theme because we are about to experience a very busy river in Southern Ontario with the salmon season coming.
Mhm.
Lots of big
Elbow to
treble
elbow.
hook flying everywhere.
Quote me.
Quote? All right. Somebody just back of you while you are fishing. No, I want to read that again. Yeah, there was I put some space in there where there isn't.
What's the quote? Just
I
read the
have
quote.
nice poetry music playing
I
in
know,
the
but
background.
I have to have the voice for it.
Okay, just
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay,
Think
I'm
of the
ready.
old
I'm
man
ready.
in the sea.
I'm ready.
okay.
Somebody just back of you while you are fishing is as bad as someone looking over your shoulder while you write a letter to your girl.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because
I
you know,
guess.
like I go to the Umber. Like
Yeah.
I take the subway to the Umber at 7.
Mhm.
No one. There's no one there. It's foggy. It's beautiful. I'm like, yes.
My,
Third cast. Hey, watch out behind you. And there's like 3
yeah,
people
shoulder to shoulder. It's no good.
shoulder to shoulder to me. I mean, so yeah, that was a nod to that.
To the which one? The quote was for which one?
The quote was
The salmon season that's coming
Yeah.
up.
The upcoming salmon season
Upcoming
in
salmon
Southern
season.
Ontario.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love how Gab gets quotes for the news. It's amazing.
Yep.
Like, hey, here's the news. A quote from Ernest Hemingway. Someone watching
It's,
over your shoulder.
it's
great.
full of discovery.
Yeah.
It's discovery with Gab. /news /quotes
Chantal
geography.
helping you with this?
Hmm?
Chantal helping you with the news?
No.
She should.
Hey.
Okay.
One day I'll make it.
Is that it?
That's it.
That's it for the news?
That's all I have.
Oh, breaking news.
So
Yeah.
you know I made it short because we
Yeah.
have Alex. He's
Yeah.
just back from up north. So
Okay,
I
I'm
didn't
gonna
wanna
call.
take too
I'm gonna
much.
sing you out. Here we go. Ready?
Okay.
All right.
This was Gabriel Bizot for SoFly Fly Fishing News. Thank you very much for listening.
Amazing.
Everybody loves it. People tune in for this, so it's great.
fuck. It's dumb as
It's hilarious.
I don't know.
I can't
yeah.
even articulate an English
sorry.
word properly.
No, don't apologize.
Thanks for coming on.
It's part of the fun.
I mean, we do this, and
Don't ask me. People love it. I don't know why.
Mitch is
We
a good
try.
editor.
we try. We try. Yeah, I don't know. Ernest Hemingway is great. I love Ernest Hemingway.
I do. Old
Do
man
you
in the
like his
sea.
writing? As a writer, do you like Ernest Hemingway?
As a copywriter, can I respect one of the greatest
Okay.
writers of all time? Yes.
Okay.
Now here's a segue for you.
I do love Ernest Hemingway.
One of the other great fly fishing writers of all time, John Girac, was at Plumbers, and there are 2 chapters in what is it?
Trout Bomb?
All Fishermen Are Liars.
All fishermen are liars.
2 chapters, one on Great Bear, one on the Tree River.
He also
great.
talked about it in an article in the Fly Fish Journal. I think it was last year about floatplane. He had an article like a how do you call that again?
Just like an editorial.
Yeah, an
in a
editorial, yeah,
magazine?
Yeah,
He's
a
great.
creative nonfiction article.
He's great. He's great.
That's what
There's
I meant.
also not to product pitch because Sims doesn't pay me anything, but there's a Sims fishing video on YouTube where John Girac narrates over some sort of like poetry with shots of the Tree River, and
Oh, that's cool.
it's pretty cool. He's
super
he's
cool.
definitely into that place.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
a guy. That's pretty cool because he's I love him. He's great.
he's legit.
He's really really
And
great.
He's been everywhere.
No, again, not to derail this too much, but one of the most interesting parts of his writing on Great Bear is insisting that people try trolling flies. On Great Bear, the water's so big, and the lake trout they follow. They're follower fish, so they'll follow for a very long time, like hundreds and hundreds of meters. We use some guys have those water wolf cameras that go like in a swivel that you watch behind, and they'll follow forever and then peel off and come back. And so one of the challenges about fly casting for lake trout up there. So not to back it up too much, but the fish at this lake are very shallow. Like we don't fish any deeper on the fly than like 20 feet.
Oh,
the
really?
water's so cold that you can you don't have to go very deep. Like a nice heavy sinking leader, like 20 feet of T20 is more than you need. Shorter than that if you're casting. But the challenge is that when you cast out and then you kind of coho strip to give yourself more line, and you're pulling it in, they'll follow right up to the boat. And then they'll take off because they just haven't had enough time to check it out for that species. They need a longer follow than that, which is why trolling comes in. And a lot of people don't like trolling flies. They're like, oh, I fly fish to fly cast. But one of John Gierak's points was, you don't have to be a purist. This kind of comes into the whole like mop fly versus worm fly debate, like what's fly fishing. But if you're open-minded, trolling flies is awesome. It's a whole different fight on a fly rod. It's so much softer than conventional tackle. Your tippet or leader is lighter, and it's super effective. And if I have a fly rod trolling for lake trout, it'll outfish conventional tackle 3-1 in terms of numbers.
Really?
Wow.
The fly is so much smaller and more natural in profile. A spoon or a flatfish that we use, they're very, very aggressive in terms of profile and flash, but a fly is this kind of small, natural, moving, flowing item. We're using big flies, up to like 12, 14-inch flies if you're trolling them.
12, 14 inch.
Huge. Like
The only other time I heard about trolling for flies was on Lake Champlain. Like back in the days, I think they used to do that for like lake trout and also Wenanish, so like landlocked salmon.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah. So would you use 2 flies at a time? Like, would you?
No, so if I have fly fishermen, so we at the lodge we do this. We have a fly fishing 2 fly fishing weeks that people other than fly fishermen can book it. But the way that it's structured, you get an extra night at the Tree River, and then you do a grayling fly out, and the pricing works out that you get your night at the Tree River for free, your extra night. So very popular fly fishermen because you spend more time on the river.
Yeah.
But when they're on the rivers, they're casting nonstop at the tree and for grayling. So it's a little bit easier to convince them to troll for the lake trout. Like we can cast if there's no wind and if it's nice, but it's a huge lake and they're follower fish. So even the most hardcore fly fishermen, you can usually convince to try trolling flies for these fish. And it's awesome because the average size fish there is probably between 8 and 12 pounds. And an 8 to 12 pound trout on a fly rod, if you said you can go catch 8 to 12 pound trout every day, all day, no matter what, people would be like, sign me up. That sounds like the greatest fishery in the world. Let's do it. So if they're
8
willing
to
to try it,
12. That's insane.
a 12-pound fish on the fly is an incredible fight, and the sky is the limit. right?
Especially
So
in like a water body like that, because they can just run up and down. And
they don't run; they bury.
Oh.
They sound, so they go right to the bottom.
Oh.
So on a fly rod, you see photos of guys with a fly rod where they're bent to the cork
Yeah.
Yeah,
on their
yeah.
10-weight, 12-weight rod right next to the boat,
I'd
and
freak out.
the fish is 40 feet down, and you're right to the cork, and you've got your Sage Method, the stiffest, fastest rod that you have, and you're like, oh my god, like
Yeah.
don't break. You have guys like holding the cork
they
and
break?
trying to lean it back. I've never had anyone break a rod in the boat, but you look at it and you're like, God, I don't
It's
know.
like right on the edge.
Like it's really tight.
but that
So-
just shows you these rods hold up.
oh yeah,
Good rods hold up.
They're great. Guys show up with the right tackle. Fly fishermen especially, they show up with the right stuff.
Yeah,
most
yeah.
fly fishermen up there bring their own rods, but
Yeah.
yeah, so trolling flies, like people are often skeptical about it, and they're like, "That's not really fly fishing." But as like an interlude to your 3.5, 4 days of casting nonstop, if you just want to try and catch a really big lake trout on the fly, it's the best way to do it. You
Yeah.
can cast for them. You can stand on a point and you can cast a big streamer as many times as you can, but like your arm is going to fall off. You can do it, but it's not the best way to do it. So, as I said, people are often skeptical about it, but like we just try and encourage people to be open-minded about the idea of like throwing on a heavy sink tip and trolling it around and
Yeah.
just to get that big fish,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? After 3-4 days on the Ottawa-Piscataway River, I would have left the troll a little bit.
I know.
I couldn't even barely close my hand.
I know.
At some point.
Your arm hurts.
So it's totally true. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
12-inch, flies.
Fly
You know?
fishing is not necessarily about casting. It's just, as long as you're using a fly and a
Yeah.
fly rod.
Yeah,
you're fly
especially if you
fishing.
tie your own flies, that's half the magic of it.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like having a fly that you or someone you know tied.
Yeah.
You're dragging it around,
What
but
kind of
that's just
fly
because
would you
that's what
use
it takes.
to
Yeah,
troll
it's
like that.
So I tie my own stuff for up there just because I've been up there enough that I know what they're looking for. But if you get something like a delivery man or any really big pike fly will work. The bigger, the better. I don't like anything with a front hook because you'll often get short strikes.
Yeah.
You'll get them nipping in the
yeah.
back. So I really, when I tie them, I'll tie with two big 6/0 hooks, one at the front, one at the
Right. So you
back.
dig the articulated.
Exactly.
That's the way to do it.
With
Yeah.
two big 32 mil
That's the way to
shanks
do
in the middle. So huge profile, lots of marabou, lots of bucktail, big, flashy. You're not being imitative. It's an aggression strike that you're getting out of the lake trout. But the bigger, the better.
Yeah.
You can run at the start of a week. I'll run like a Dalai Lama, so a
Yep.
big cone head, just a little bit of flash, and you'll catch every lake trout in the lake because every small fish will eat that, right? It's right in their size range. And eventually people get tired of that. They're like, I've caught enough 6-pound fish, like let's go bigger. And so then you try and upsize to kind of weed out some of the
caught
smaller fish.
But then they catch the big fish. Do you have guests that
That's a good
catch the
problem to have.
big fish that they wanted to catch, and then they're just like, I'm just going to take 5, and they take a break?
Yeah. So, I mean, on a fly rod, you'll catch more fish than a conventional rod, but it's harder to catch big fish because you're catching so many fish.
Yeah.
So if you catch a 20-pound lake trout on a fly rod, that's insane. Like that's
Yeah.
that's a huge lake trout.
And do you see it happen?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. It definitely happens. I think the biggest fish on a fly rod this year was 40 some odd pounds, like 42 pounds, which is
40 some pounds on a fly?
it's insane, right?
How long's the fight?
On a fly rod, very long.
I mean,
So-
up there and on a fly. I mean, we say,
And they're
people are
deep,
fishing
You
tarpon.
gotta
Yeah, they're
reel a
deep.
lot.
I know, to say on a fly, it's like, yeah, but it's the type of fish and where you are that's so insane.
Exactly, and they bury, right? They go deep.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to winch it up. That's the challenge with a fly rod is that you don't have that same stiffness of a rod, so
Yeah.
you don't have as much control. So it's very much a thing of attrition. With a conventional rod, I've guided 48-pound fish that took 4 minutes to catch because they were in very shallow water. They weren't deep.
Yeah.
You can pull them up. But on a conventional rod, a 20-pound fish, I can pretty much guarantee every one of my guests a 20-pound fish.
Yeah.
It just because you catch bigger fish using bigger profiles.
You're
So-
deeper.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because
Exactly.
you're down rigging, right?
No
not
downriggers.
even?
It's
Okay.
all
Oh, wow.
flatlining.
Yeah.
The water. If you're in Ontario and you're fishing for lake trout, you want to find the coldest water you can, which generally means going down very deep. So downrigger, lead ball. Up there, you flip everything you know about lake trout on its head. Like you have to find the warmest water you can find. So at the start of the season, the first week, we're fishing 2, 3, 4 feet of water, trolling very fast. And later in the season, like I might if I'm with a conventional angler, fish at like 25, 30 feet, like not very deep at all because it's just so
Okay.
cold.
Yeah.
Right.
It's freezing. So yeah, that's
makes
kind of
sense.
that's
Yeah.
kind of the lake trout scene. Like you can cast for them, but trolling for them is much more effective.
Well, I mean,
So you said you can throw like super bright color. You don't try to imitate, so you don't even have to imitate like whitefish, which is probably their food. I
Whitefish and Cisco.
Oh,
are
yeah.
the-
big attractant type flies that pull them in, right?
Exactly. So yeah, like for me, I run like a 12-inch, something that's blue and white and pink, chartreuse and orange, lots of flash. Like think pike.
Yeah.
Think a pike fly,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
double as big as you would fish for pike or muskie here. Like as big as you can get,
Right.
especially if you're trolling it. It doesn't matter, right?
So forgive me if this is crazy, because so you're on Great Bear, and Great Slave is another lake. Have you spent a lot of time in Great Slave?
None.
Right.
I've only guided on Great Bear, so it's two very separate. They're under the same umbrella, but the operations don't really overlap at all. You either go to Slave or you go to Bear.
Right.
That's
Because Great Slave is quite the pike fishery, I've heard.
yeah, it is. You can catch a lot of big pike depending where on the lake you are,
Right.
and then Great Bear is almost exclusively for the lake trout.
So that is very, very cool that they have those options. You could do. You can decide what you want to catch, basically, what kind of experience you're looking for, and tailor it to that.
Yeah, you basically pick your lodge based on what you
Very,
want.
very cool.
One of the big advantages to the main lodge is that we have the float planes that allow us to fly to the Tree River. And the Tree River is kind of like the crown jewel of the operation. It is the most beautiful place on earth. And it's where the fly fishing, like if you're a fly fisherman and you go to Plumbers, you go there for the Tree River. It's
So that's where you see all those like Arctic char, like orange and
nice
red
segue.
colors.
Yeah.
That was smooth. I like that. Yes, exactly. So yeah, the Tree River is about an hour and 45 minutes from our lodge by turbo water. So a couple 100 miles, 250 miles, give or take. And it's on the south shore of the Arctic Ocean. So we have about 5 miles of fishable water from the mouth of the river to what we call the Third Falls, which is like a 35, 40-foot waterfall that the Char can't get over. And there are 2 other sets of waterfalls in the middle that are class 4 whitewater that the Char can actually jump. And when you see them, especially at high water, you're like, there's no way that a fish is going over this. It's like bigger than the biggest thing you've seen on a BBC One documentary about
Did you see
salmon.
them jump?
Yeah, actually, if you
So
stand there
cool
and
to see.
watch a particular spot, you can see them going up it. And you can see the lane that they use. Like you look at it, be like, no, maybe. And that's where they're all shooting up. But if you look down at the base of that waterfall, there'll be dozens and dozens of them just stacked up. Early in the season on the Tree, you can go there and you can catch 20, 30 fish a day. Super willing. They're chrome. They look like salmon. They're very fresh. They're an anadromous fish, so they run from salt to fresh to spawn, but unlike salmon, they don't die. So these fish have several spawn cycles
So more
in
like
them.
steelhead.
Yeah, very much like steelhead. They're very much like a steelhead. So they go in, they're chrome when they arrive, and by the end of the season, they're very red, like tomatoes, pumpkins. They're
beautiful. Man.
you'll see char from other rivers. People will catch them in some places in Europe, like Greenland and in Norway and places like that, and they get kind of this orangey color. But the Tree River fish are tomatoes. They're unlike anything in the world, and they're the biggest char in the world. The world record fish on all tackle out of there is 32 pounds. And the natives from the nearby community of Kugluktuk at the base of the Coppermine River, they go and net that after we're gone when the big run of fish happens, and they catch fish that are 40, 50 pounds out of there, like 40, 50 pound Arctic char. It's just, we can't run an operation that late. You can't fly planes.
Yeah.
It's winter, so they take boats and sleds.
Boats and sleds.
Boats and
So
sleds.
you came back like a week ago, I think? Something?
Yeah. The season ended on August 18th for me, and so I've been back for, I guess it's 9 days since the season ended.
What's the weather like there?
This year was horrible. So this year the average temp was like 10 degrees Celsius. We probably had rain half the season. Normally you get a bunch of days that are in the 20s, like very nice, flat, calm, really good for travel. We had 6 days of summer in the 2 months. It was the summer that wasn't. It was really tough. The Tree fluctuates very widely. You get snow one day and then 30-degree heat the next day. Same with the main lake on Great Bear. But yeah.
So, I mean, you said you came back and you're like, oh, you're thankful for being back in the city, but there's that little bit of a reprieve that you're like, oh, I wish I was back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so it's camp life, you know. So guiding in Southern Ontario is very different, or guiding pretty much anywhere. If you guide in Colorado or in Montana, like you go home at the end of the day, right? You have your guide day, and then you sleep in your own bed with your dog and your wife, or whatever, what have you. Up there, I guide every day for 7 straight weeks. Rain or shine, unless it's unsafe, which never happens. Like I've only had one day where I couldn't go out. So you're on for 2 straight months. So, it's very rustic. We have our guide cabins that have wood stoves, but definitely no heating, no running water in your cabin. There's a shower house and a bathhouse kind of thing.
So what you're saying is I should continue to bring my wet wipes.
Yes,
so
baby wipes and baby powder are
non-scented baby wipes and baby powder.
For guests much more comfortable.
Fantastic.
Everyone's got their own bathroom. There's all these guest cabins. They're very nice. But for us, it's like very much guide accommodations.
Right.
The food is incredible. They take care of us very well. But you're ready for a real bed and a real
it's DIY for the guides.
Yeah, like cut your own wood.
Yeah.
Like there's a hot water tank for your shower. But
That's an interesting segue too, because Mitchie's Fishies 5 is a segment we like to do in the show where I ask you 5 questions and we see what people say, and this is hard-heading shit. This is the stuff that you
I don't know
can't
if I have
prepare.
enough beer for this, but let's.
Well, we're gonna get another beer. We're
Let's
gonna
see
get
how we
another
do.
beer.
Get another beer.
We're gonna get another beer, and then we're gonna do
I'm not
Mitchie's
gonna
Fishies.
get another beer.
We're gonna do Mitchie's Fishies.
I know.
All right.
You're
Okay.
boring like that.
Let's take 2 minutes and get a beer.
All right.
What about food? Like who eat? Like how do you eat? Do you cook?
Yeah,
for the guests.
So breakfast is done. We have a chef. The main lodge is Chef Greg or Gregoire. He's been there for 3 years. He's incredible. So he cooks breakfast every day for the guests, and then shore lunch is on me. So if we're on the main lake, we typically keep 1 fish a day for lunch. So a 6 to 8 pound lake trout is a lunch fish.
Yeah.
And we typically don't want a red fin. They're bug eaters, so the flesh tends to be pretty pale. Pinkish, but not like somewhere pinker than bass, but south of salmon. If you get a gray that eats freshwater shrimp, the flesh is like sockeye orange, like
super
incredibly oily. Like your fingers are coated. Beautiful,
Wow.
beautiful fish. So we keep a 6 to 8 pound fish for shore lunch, and the recipe book is a mile long. Like everyone's got their own favorites, and it's a big part of the experience.
Yeah.
You get a lot of people from the city that don't get fresh fish, like
Yeah.
they get grocery fish, and also a lot of people that don't know a whole lot about campfire cooking. They're like, oh, you fry it or bust, or you do hot dogs and baked potatoes,
Right.
or something really basic. So guys take a lot of pride in doing like bakes and chowders and teriyakis and pastas, and it's
Did you say
What?
sashimi?
yeah.
Sashimi.
So the
Wait, I gotta do it
sashimi.
Did you say sashimi?
Absolutely, I did.
So what's your favorite then? What in terms of the cooking thing?
So my favorite dish is a blackened Cajun and honey lake
Yeah,
trout.
yeah.
So you take a Cajun blend, you rub your cubed lake trout in it. So you just fillet it, take out the pin bones and cube it. Take ideally a super hot, like smoking hot, clean pan, no oils, and you throw it in there with Cajun spice, and it blackens the Cajun spice off. Like you just kind of roll it. Take some of the heat out, but you keep the flavor. And then once it's done, you put it in a foil pack and coat it in honey,
Right.
and then put it back on the grill and just let the honey melt and coat.
Oh my
And then
God.
we'll do that with either some potatoes or French fries or rice or corn or beans or
sounds so good.
grilled
Sounds
grilled
amazing.
grilled
It sounds
vegetables.
so good.
It's a big part of the experience for sure. So you kind of open people's eyes to campfire cooking in a big way. So we do that every day, and then the chef cooks dinner. So Thursday night is actually wine and cheese night.
What?
So the chef will do a big spread of like between 12 and 15 appetizers. So like bacon wrapped
Sounds
pike,
amazing.
lake trout sliders,
Lake trout sliders.
ceviche,
That sounds so sick.
sushi, sashimi.
Oh man.
So
Sausage
with,
rolls.
with the lake trout sliders, do they? Gab was mentioning that they what do you call it? They mince it up. Is that what they do to make the burger and the sliders?
Yeah. He creates like it would look a lot like ground beef.
Ground beef,
and then pulls it in for a lake trout slider. But you asked about sashimi and sushi, but the water's so pure that we drink it just from a cup, so we
Exactly.
don't. There's no bottled water. The day we start flying in water is the day they shut down the lodge.
Yeah.
You can visibility in some spots is 30, 40 feet. So like
What?
no bacterial growth, no parasites. There's almost no algae. It's just it's almost sterile at any depth. So for sashimi, if we get a good quality lunch fish, we'll literally just take the portion closest to the tail usually, and usually the bottom half. So not up towards the dorsal fin, but down towards the pectoral fins. You get a really thick strip. So you slice that into sashimi, and then I bring up ginger, and they have wasabi up there
Oh my
and
God.
spicy mayo.
Oh,
So this
we'll-
is like
good.
this is like you're fishing, but like you're living life, man, in all of its
So,
ways.
yeah.
it's rustic chic for
yeah.
sure.
You're
Yeah.
eating
Like-
good food. You're
Rustic
eating
chic.
you're eating like clean, amazing ingredients
Yeah.
properly well.
Yeah.
In a place where you're catching just ridiculous fish.
You're not staying at the Hilton. You're not going to the hot tub afterwards,
Yeah.
but you have incredible food and you're comfortable.
You're treated well.
Yeah.
You're treated extremely well.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so the cooking is definitely shore lunch is a lot of work, but it's very rewarding 'cause
Yeah.
people are definitely grateful when you can pull off something really, really nice over a campfire with a grill and a fry pan
In the
and
woods.
what you have in a Rubbermaid
So
bin.
you bring
that
your pile
with
of
you.
wood
Yeah.
in the boat.
Nope.
And then
No, we
not even there.
the only thing I ever ask my guests to do is collect firewood. So I am their manservant for all intents and purposes for the entire week, except that I need firewood for shore lunch and I have to clean fish and prep my ingredients. So if they're physically able, I ask them to collect firewood,
Right.
which is easier than it sounds. Up
Yeah.
there, like
Grab some.
you're right on the edge of the tree line, so there's not a lot of wood. So sometimes it takes
Driftwood, or-
a bit of a walk. Yeah, driftwood,
Yeah.
or we have lots of willow, so they'll collect
Wait,
dry.
I got to go into the woods. Now bears. What are we talking about here?
Oh baby,
Oh,
So-
there we go. Here
the
we go.
wildlife freaks them out.
There definitely are grizzly bears and wolves and stuff in the area. The wolves are no problem. They don't care about humans. They do their own thing. There's a pack of wolves that lives behind the lodge that you see very frequently. They've got pups and things. It's adorable, and they don't care. Grizzly bears, if you saw a grizzly bear, it's a problem, but I've never encountered one at shore lunch. They tend to avoid humans. Like, they just don't want that conflict. They're off looking for food, and their range is huge, like hundreds of miles for a single bear. So they're not hanging out in any particular area.
Okay.
Unless there's an abundance of food there. Like, if you picked a spot and you did nothing but put all of your dead fish there for a month, like, you'd probably have a bear problem. But they're Arctic grizzlies. They have to roam to get enough food for.
So just don't be stupid, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not even like basic bear etiquette. You don't even need that much that often. It's just don't put your food scraps in one spot to attract things. But
Ilma's scared. He's trembling. For
I'm
those
not
listening
scared.
at home,
I'm not scared. We're cutting that out.
he's
bears.
scared.
I'm not
He's scared of bears. He's scared of wolves, aren't you? Yeah, baby. No, I'm scared of him too. Don't worry, man.
Nothing to be scared of up there. I've never had a bear problem myself personally, so definitely not a
sure.
not a concern for anyone.
Awesome.
Okay, I think it's time for Mitchie's Fishies.
I think so.
Okay, let's do it. We
It's
got our
Mitchie's
beers.
Fishies
so
5
Let's
time.
do
We
it.
got some
I'm gonna lean
beers.
back for this one.
Yeah, these aren't hard. These, we got some good ones in here, but we're gonna start off pretty easy. I think we're gonna start off with a question that's not crazy.
These are for me, right?
These are for you.
Okay.
These are for Alex, the man himself.
All right, let's do it.
What's one thing you'd recommend future guests bring? So I think when you go on these types of trips, there's always like you get a guest that's like, oh, they're missing this or they're missing that, or it's like for those listening at home, it's like the people are planning these trips. We just did Attawapiskat, and it's like, what are we supposed to bring? We know we're going to forget something. What's something you think everyone should bring?
So the fly fishermen to Great Bear Lake should bring a sink tip heavier than anything they think they could reasonably use anywhere if they're willing to troll flies.
Right.
So I this year brought up 20 feet of T20 as a sink tip to troll. People are like, that, like, why? It's not necessary, but it is.
Because it's just too heavy?
Yeah, because where else are you going to do that, right? Unless you're trolling flies.
Yeah.
So super heavy sink tip, A+, number one. In terms of like personal comfort stuff, bug jacket.
Yeah,
Bring a
number
bug
one.
jacket. If you're on shore or you're up at the Tree River, the bugs can get pretty epic at certain parts of the year. But yeah, in terms of like functional fishing equipment, bring a super heavy sink tip. It makes all the difference in the
So
world.
the bugs get pretty whack up there.
Well, it's the Arctic.
Yeah.
For sure. So if you get the right conditions, their season's pretty typically short for them, so you don't deal with them for a long time. But
It's kind of a crazy thing. I forgot. I sort of forgot. It sort of left me that we're talking about the Arctic.
yeah, it's north of the Arctic Circle.
Isn't that insane? I totally forgot that that's the place we were talking about was north of the Arctic Circle.
24 hours of
That's
daylight
insane.
on the tree line.
24
Arctic.
hours of daylight on the tree line, Arctic.
Shit. Then what about polar bears?
Technically, the north shore of Great Bear Lake is the south end of polar bear territory, but nobody in the history of all of the native stories up there from the Dene people have ever talked about a polar bear being anywhere close. So
Right.
it's not even like a conversation topic up there. No one's ever said anything about polar bears.
But it's
just
north
not.
of the Arctic Circle, which is it's north. It's the Arctic.
Yep.
That's
oh, yeah.
insane. That's so
but
crazy.
it's like
Was that a beer?
no, it was my phone.
Oh.
Polar bears, they're like they eat a lot of seals and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think where he is, it's a lot more closer and like it's inland.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that you have like that
So
same
cool,
issue
though,
that like inlets would have. And
Well, the Tree River is on the south shore of the Arctic Ocean, so you'd think they'd be there. But
Mhm.
same thing, for whatever reason, it just seems to be a pocket where we don't see them. You see seals and beluga
Yeah,
and
exactly. That's
and
what
things
that's
like
why
that.
the question. That's why I
They're
asked
there,
about it, 'cause
yeah.
I knew that too.
Main Lodge grizzly bears are a thing. Up there, you'd think polar bears, but no.
Main Lodge grizzly bears.
Yeah, for sure. You're in grizzly bear territory.
South shore of the Arctic Ocean. That's just nuts. It's crazy.
You can swim in it. We have a T-shirt that says
Get
"I
outta here.
was stupid enough to swim in the Arctic Ocean."
No.
So
Have you
if
done
you-
it?
5 times.
Get out of here.
Yep.
And
What?
It's cold.
hey,
Do you have the T-shirt?
Yeah.
Why aren't you wearing it right now?
I didn't even think to bring it.
if I
We need
go
a
up
picture
there,
of
I'm
that.
That's
totally
sick. I
taking
want
a
that
dip
shirt.
for sure.
I'm in
Yeah.
100% with
For
it.
Definitely
sure.
a big tourist attraction.
So we
for
do,
sure.
Oh, yeah.
we do our post. We do our our episode post. So that is a perfect photo. So if you can bring in the shirt,
I'll
to
pull the
I guess
T-shirt out.
to drift.
Yo, that's so cool,
I'll get
man.
Olga to shoot it.
Would
and
you do
then-
it, Yelma?
Yeah. What would
The
I
dip?
do it? Yeah, I'd do anything once, man. For sure, absolutely.
It'd be so fun.
Yeah.
That'd be so cool.
I'm scared. I don't have fear. I'm scared.
This
but I'll do it.
this year we still had
fear. He is fear.
we still had ice in the estuary this year. So the first week we went up there are icebergs floating around where the swimming rock is. You look out onto Port Epworth, which is on the south end of the Coronation Gulf of the Arctic Ocean.
Yeah.
So it is Arctic Ocean. You can't see land the other direction across the salt water. People are looking at these icebergs. They're like, I don't think I'm going to do this because it's colder
Yeah.
than fresh water. It's colder than the freezing point of fresh water. It is cold.
And you're looking at icebergs, and you're
It's
like,
like it's about to freeze like soon, like late September,
It's
probably
insane.
October.
No, this was the
It's
first week of July,
Okay.
and it was just thawing, and now it's
Okay.
right on the edge.
Yeah, but like
uh,
if you do it like now, for example,
Yeah.
or like a week ago, it's about to freeze very soon.
crazy.
yeah, I feel like we got away from question number
We
one.
did. That's
and
really
left it
cool.
great.
We did, but that's really cool. Second question I got for ya.
Okay,
What do you like about guiding fly fishers?
I like guiding fly fishers because they tend to have their expectations much more dialed in than the conventional angler. So I find that people who go fly fishing do it much more frequently than your conventional angler, your average conventional angler. We get a lot of conventional anglers that do it once or twice a year, and it's when they're on these trips. They're going fishing. It doesn't take a lot of upkeep to be able to throw a spoon or something like that. But fly fishing, if you let it go, you get rusty, and you don't want to go on a trip without having done it. So I find when fly fishermen come up, they're much happier with a much more reasonable outcome. You don't get people on fly gear that have outsized expectations for the spot that they're at. So we're an incredible fishery, but not everyone's going to catch a 50-pound fish.
Yeah.
Nobody comes up with a fly rod saying, I have to catch a 50-pound fish or my trip is awful. They're like, I want to catch some grayling, I want to catch some lake
Right.
trout. I'd love to catch a char, but no one's like, 30-pound char or bust or 50-pound laker or bust. I find that fly fishermen are much more about the experience than they are about like the number on the scale.
Holistically, right?
Yeah, they love being there. It's about where they are, who they're there with, the act of the fishing much more than like the end result on my 100-pound scale at the end of the day.
Well,
So-
here's a 2.5 Mitchie's Fishies 5. Question 2.5. So,
No, I'm sorry.
Mama Pajama.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, I'm excited.
Mitchie's 2.5 is, what do you like just about guiding then? Because the fly fishing, 100%, that makes total sense. What is it that you like about guiding? Why do you guide?
So I love being able to share that place with people. I was lucky enough to go there as a guest the first time I went there, and so I know what it's like to see it for the first time, and I know what a difference it can make to have someone who's excited to have you there and is knowledgeable and patient. So people ask, how can you sit in a boat or on a riverbank and watch people catch fish all day, especially, fish like we have up there? They're like, these are, the fish of a lifetime you see come out all the time. Like, how can you watch that? And I get pretty close to 100% as much satisfaction out of watching other people catch those fish as I would about catching them myself. I'm not a passive watcher. I'm not a boat driver. I pick the spot. I'm picking flies. I know about the depth and the current and the behavior of the fish. I feel that I was part of that fish too, and so I just get an incredible amount of gratification about watching people have that experience that I already had, just from a different angle. Like, I can help them have that. So that for me, that's the best part. It's sometimes it's exhausting and frustrating. But at the end of the day, you see people leave happy and be like, this was an experience with my dad or my grandpa or my wife that I'm never going to forget. Like, that's,
Lifetime.
everyone goes up there because there are financial perks to doing it. It's a job, and everyone gets paid to do it. But it's also extremely, extremely fulfilling to watch people have those experiences that are so far outside of their day-to-day lives in many cases.
Yeah.
Shit.
Absolutely. Aldo?
I'm just gonna get Andy. So just before question number.
Oh, Andy's here. Yeah. Gab, can you film this next one?
Yeah.
And if I could ask,
Wait.
if you could film Alex, that'd be rad. But the pressure's not on.
I look good from every angle.
Hey, you look
so
good from every angle, baby. I like that hat too. Sim's
I
got
do
into
like
the
that
camo
hat.
game.
Yeah,
They're getting into the camo game.
Yeah,
They're
I'm at
broadening their
my
horizons.
fighting weight right now. This is lodge weight. So
That's good lodge weight.
I'm looking good.
You're looking good. You're looking good.
That's a 15 pound season right there. Seriously.
Dude, if I went up there, so you actually gain weight when you go up there?
I lost 15 pounds.
Oh, you lost 15 pounds.
Yep.
I got to go up. That's a good weight loss program. Maybe that's a new sort of like angle for lodges.
Yeah.
Come up, lose weight.
And I didn't even cut back on beer.
No.
No, I went.
You're just working hard all day, right? And
All
you're
day,
eating
every day.
normal. You're not
Fresh.
like sitting on the couch eating a bag of Doritos.
Right.
Yeah,
You're
but he's
working.
speaking as a guide. You will have to guide in order to lose that weight.
Well, that's the problem is I don't know how to guide. And B, I can't really move that much. So if like I'm in the boat, I'm like, you fish over there, but I don't want to get out of the boat and walk.
See, you're
Get
too
in
hard
the
on
wood.
yourself.
What's that?
You're too hard on yourself.
You think so?
Yeah, I think you look fly.
You could be.
Oh,
You
baby.
could be a guy. I
You
mean,
look so
you're
fly.
a good boat person.
Yeah?
You look
You
so
can-
fly.
You
man.
hold the boat pretty good.
Oh, good drop.
Thank you.
Alex dropped a good one there. Alex dropped a good one.
That's
Okay.
a good one. Okay, so
I got another Fishies 5, and I got it for you.
What are we on? Question 3?
We're on question 3, because that
Right.
was 2.5. So that was
Yep.
kind of-
Yeah.
3's ready.
This goes away from the guiding a little bit. And this
Okay.
is just more towards you.
All right.
What is your favorite fish? Interpret it how you like. That could be to catch. That could be to
Ooh.
look at, eat. That could be to as just a philosophical
Yeah.
thing. Anything. Something you haven't caught. Something that you've caught way too much of. Your first one. I don't know. What's your favorite?
Okay. So I'm going to split it into 2. So my favorite fish that I've had encounters with personally is an Arctic char. Because I think the environment that they live in year round is so inhospitable, and the things, especially on the tree that they go through to get to where they're going, it's incredible. They're like salmon on steroids. It's nuts. My favorite fish in saltwater, which I've done none of, I've never been saltwater fishing.
Yeah.
Giant trevally to me look just so badass.
Yeah.
Like that was I was watching Planet Earth. I'm a Planet Earth junkie, and
Yeah.
the fact that those things are eating birds blows my mind. So
insane, right?
any fish that is actively targeting a bird to me is an absolute badass. So I'm gonna say like Arctic char / giant trevally.
I
Planet
mean,
Earth is an amazing show. I'm a sucker for it. Too.
that's a great. Why is it that you like about Arctic char?
So in terms of physical beauty, if you're listening, you got to go look up some photos of these fish. And when they're in full spawning colors, they've got this brownish black back with white spots and a tomato red belly and tomato red fins with white tips, and they look like an alien species. They don't even look like a fish. And big or small, male or female, the males get this hump and this kype, but the females are like big red black tomatoes. They're just stunning. And even when they're silver, you look, they've got these they're silver with these iridescent pink spots, and the color pink is a color that you can't capture on film. You look at it in person and it glows and it moves, and you can't capture it.
We'd have to fix it in post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the physical beauty is incredible.
Yeah.
And then, as I said, like just this river is class 4 whitewater all the way up. Like the first falls of the Tree River, we've had professional kayakers look at it and be like, you would die if you did that. There's
Yeah.
just standing waves with rocks. The second falls, they're like, you could probably do that, but it's not going to be fun. It's like 40 some odd degrees Fahrenheit. Like
Yeah.
it is like the least hospitable waterway to fish, and they're all through it. And you're like, these fish are badass.
Yeah.
Like they're just machines.
Yeah.
So they're so impressive all around, and it's so nice to be able to encounter them on a fly.
So
like,
cool.
to be able to catch
so
them.
cool, man.
That's pretty
Speaks so nicely of those fish, and I've seen pictures too, and it's the same sort of innate like desire to want to catch a char. They
Yeah.
just look like like the most beautiful fish, and
They
it's like
do.
the fact that they're there and you can catch them is such a motivating. It's just such an amazing thing.
Yeah,
That's
they're awesome.
Mitchie's. That's Mitchie's Fishies 3.
That's number 3.
Number 4, we've got another one here, and this one maybe might pluck some of the It might take some of the
think
juices from your brains.
Yeah.
Why do you fly fish?
Why do I fly fish?
Personally.
So on a personal level, I fly fish / tie flies because I find it to be a really complete escape from my day job. So when I'm at the firm, when I'm working downtown at the law firm, I come home from whatever day of work that I've had, and I can sit down at a vise and tie a fly, and that's 5 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes of just being completely encapsulated in that fly. It's like adult coloring that so many people are into
I was
these
just
days
going to compare it to that.
on steroids, right? It's arts and crafts, but it's so minute and it's so finite, and you're thinking about an end result, not just finishing the thing. So that, fly tying, and I find fly fishing to be the same thing. Like, you can be stressed out in the car the whole way there, thinking about the emails you're getting, whatever. But once you tuck your phone into that chest pack and you're like, okay, I'm going to fish for an hour and not look at this damn cellular device, you can go that entire hour, and at the end of it, you feel like you've had a chunk of time where you haven't been thinking about anything about, like, what's the wind doing? What's that bug? How's my drift going? Like, what about over there? Should I go down? You're so involved in it. It's so all encapsulating that's why I do it. It's like a complete escape for a period of time from whatever else you've got going on.
Oh yeah.
What's your favorite memory guiding at Plumbers?
It's actually easy, believe it or not.
No way.
Yeah. So I had a guest last year. So my best friend at the lodge, his name's Reed, and he had a couple of his childhood mentors come up, people who taught him how to fly fish and got him into the sport. And one of the guys who came up, his name was Leon, and he's a big saltwater fly fisherman. He had a boat down south, and he would do a lot of marlin and tarpon and things like that. And he'd recently, due to a variety of illnesses, lost sight in his eyes. So he was like very low vision in one eye and almost none in another eye, but just an incredible two-hand angler. He'd done a lot of steelhead swinging. So we were on the Tree River for Char, and Leon needed a lot of help getting along. He's a big guy. And we got to this pool called the President's Pool, and it's named after George H.W. Bush, so Bush Sr., who fished there. And it's a great swinging pool. And so Leon was an incredible angler, just could not see shit. So you had to call your shots for him. Be like, Leon, I need like 60 feet of line at a 45-degree angle with a big upstream mend and another big mend and then rod way out. Like, you really had to like talk him through it because he couldn't see what he was doing. But once you described to him what he had to do, money, he'd nail it.
No way.
He was on a dime.
Oh, wow.
So like called my shot for Leon, and we're swinging at the back of this pool that's got a big rock ledge in the back corner where all the fish kind of sit, and he makes this perfect swing and he hooks this fish. And this is all on video, actually. His friend was behind us, like watching this swing, and he's got this 19-pound male char, bright red, full spawning colors, and he hooks it on this swing. And on the video, the fish like jumps right out of the water. Just, it could not have gone better. And we got it in the net, and it's the most excited I've ever been to see a fish in my entire life. I'm like, there's this legally blind, amazing fly fisherman who just pulled this Arctic char out of this river. And
That's an amazing
like,
story.
if someone told me I couldn't guide another day after that, I was like, that's the coolest thing that I'll ever do. That I'll ever do up here. So that's my favorite fish.
That is so insane.
It's not only was it one of the most beautiful fish that I've ever seen, but just in terms of like just the shitty lot that this really, really good angler got dealt by Mother Nature, just super cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
that is so cool.
That's an easy answer for me. I've caught bigger fish than that, and it just doesn't compare to that. So.
That is very cool. Well, that's Mishy's Fishies 5. Thank you so much.
Wasn't that only 4?
That was 5. That was actually 5.
That's actually 6.
That was actually 6, but we called it 2.5.
That was easier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Well, we'll have you on again. We'll do a
We're
crazier
good for
one.
having fun. Everything is easy.
Yeah, that is easy.
Do you want to some parting words with people listening about Plumbers, about your experiences up north? Like, what is something, if there's anything? This isn't a Mitch's Fishies 5. This is just it's just a something, like, what is it about the north that you would like to leave?
A sign-off thought.
Yeah.
So I think not just about plumbers specifically, but more in general. Like, I think most people in the fly fishing world have a destination that they're like, someday I'm going to go to this place. I'm going to do this thing.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of them up at Plumbers. And unfortunately, we see a lot of people that I think like wait just that little bit too long to do it. Either ill health or age catch up with them, and they don't get as much out of the experience as they could. You know, they get to the river and they can't do the hike that they need to get to the best water, or, you know, they find it challenging to be out on the water every single day.
Sure.
And, you know, they've made that choice, I think largely for financial reasons. Like, I want to wait until I can afford to do this. But I think my message would be that, like, if it's something that's super important to you, that you get to that place and you genuinely intend to do it someday, don't wait too long, because
Do it now.
as a guide, there's nothing that, you know, is harder for me than to have a client that I want so badly to have the full experience that just physically can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, money is money, and it's important, and it's what it takes to get to places like that.
Sure.
But at some point, like, prioritize that. Make that trip with whoever is important enough to you to go with, and do it, because
Yeah.
they're memories you're going to have forever, and you don't want to wait too long until you can't enjoy it as much as you want to.
It really is a beautiful thing to say.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
No,
Because it's
don't wait too
very
long to
wise.
experience
No.
things
Yeah.
because at some point you're not.
It's the
gonna
same
experience
reason
them
people
as much.
travel, you know,
very
when they're
good.
young to Asia or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
it's the exact same thing.
It's
Like,
the
you should
exact
go to
thing.
these places because these places are amazing.
Yeah.
They're underappreciated,
Mm-hmm.
and you could go.
And you know what? Like, to be honest, what is it better? To go somewhere really cool in your mid-30s, or to go when you're like retired old?
Or
Kook.
not even
You know
your
what I
mid 30s.
mean?
Like, I'm talking, do it in your
In your
50s,
Yeah.
or your early 60s.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just
But
don't.
just when you're
I
when you're
just-
physically able to.
You just
That's
don't
what-
want.
Yeah.
You don't want to. It's not that you don't want to. It sucks if you're the guy
No,
who's now
totally.
75 who's decided that now is my last chance
It's
to do
exactly the
Yeah.
thing is
And
don't wait.
Unless
It's
he's
you know.
my dad, not to interrupt, but unless he's my dad. My dad still runs faster than I am, and he's.
Hey, tell me about it, man.
it. Oh,
But it's a carpe
But
diem.
I know
It's a carpe diem.
It is a
thing.
carpe diem thing.
Carpe diem
Absolutely.
thing.
It's
We had a
not
nu- a
it's
Seize
not-
90
the day, baby.
a 94-year-old guest this year catch 2 fish over 40 pounds.
Amazing.
He's 94, and
amazing.
he's still ticking, right?
Yeah.
It's all on an individual by individual basis, but
Absolutely.
yeah.
I think what you're saying is amazing. Seize the day, 100%. We're definitely going to. We got to get norther.
Yeah.
And this has been amazing.
Sweet.
Alex, thank you so much for coming.
That was
on.
an
Anytime,
awesome
guys.
This was
podcast.
good.
Thanks so much
Very
for
good.
coming.
It was amazing
Love
for having
love doing
you
it.
on.
That was fun.
Absolutely. And hey guys, like check us out, right, Gab? What is the?
Yeah, on Instagram, at the SoFly Crew. What's our Facebook again?
I think it's just SoFly.
eh? Yeah, I always mix those
Yeah.
two. So on Facebook,
I love how we still are.
SoFly.
Me and you are still like we don't know.
Yeah, we don't. I
don't
don't
know.
know what's going. I take
we were at the
photos,
news. and
Someone
we
else
photo-
posts
Yeah,
them.
exactly.
Like I don't.
It's
know
so
what's
it's the
going on.
SoFly. It's the SoFlyCrew@gmail.com.
Who are we interviewing right now?
I don't know.
Okay, let's get it straight. Come on.
all right.
At the SoFly
Yeah.
SoFly at the SoFly Crew.
At the SoFly Crew on Instagram, SoFly Crew.
SoFly on Facebook.
SoFly on Facebook.
The SoFlyCrew@gmail.com if you need to hit us up with any questions, or if you want to go to Plumber's Lodge.
Yeah.
If
Hey,
you have any questions for Alex, if you have any questions for us, anything.
We've got awesome email lately from
We have.
fans of the shows.
It's very cool to see
yeah,
that.
Thanks so much. It's really good to get them. You know,
It really
It
is.
really is.
It
Yeah.
keeps us going. You know,
It does.
We'll do it anyway. But when you get an awesome email to say like, "I love the show," it just
Means the
makes our
world.
day, man. Makes
Yeah.
my day. I go home that day, and I even when I see the email, I take a photo of it with my
Yeah.
phone and text my wife.
Amen.
I'm like, "Hey, look what we got!"
Hey, man.
So good, so
Amen.
good.
You forget.
Thanks for that.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for listening to this episode. And that's it for me, Mitch. Gab.
Hey, right on, people. Hey, I want to say something.
Yes.
Salmon season starting. There's gonna be a lot of people on the water. Be cool. Just be
Yeah.
cool, man. It goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yelma
Yeah. I mean, I've said enough this episode, so I'm signing off.
and Alex, again, thank you so much, man, for coming on. Like, it was a great show.
Anytime, guys. That was fun.
Thank you so much. Okay, everybody, thanks for listening, and take care.